Welcome to the swineweb.com How Can I Help the Producer podcast. I'm your host, Jim Eadie. Today I welcome Randall Schwartzentruber, the co-founder and CEO of BinSentry, who's an astute and innovative ag tech leader. Welcome to the podcast, Randall.
Hey, Jim. Thanks for having me this afternoon.
Yeah, you're just getting out of lockdown, right?
That's correct. Yeah, we're all excited about that. The world's starting to look a little bit more like it did before 2020.
So you guys caught my attention as a Forbes Under 30 winner. And so what do you do for the feed supply chain organizations need to know and understand about the BinSentry solution?
Sure. Well, BinSentry is an IoT solution, which is an acronym for Internet of Things. And basically what we're attempting to help our customers who are feed mills and vertical integrators do is bring increased automation to their feed tracking and ordering process. The way that we do that is we actually use sensors, which are installed in a very short period of time inside of the feed bins that those feed mills would service. And basically what that does is it enables them to have real-time visibility into how much inventory is remaining on farms. Once you have access to that information, and accurate information at that, then you can begin to operate more proactively in your organizations as opposed to reactively, which is kind of the case for the vast majority of feed mills around the world. They're literally at the mercy of producers or farmers to quite literally take a hammer and pound on the side of their feed bins, or in some cases, even more rudimentary methods like rocks. We've actually heard that some customers are taking rocks or golf balls or hockey sticks and pounding on the side of their feed bins, all in an effort to try and figure out how much product is inside of the bin. So they'll pound on the side of the bin and they'll listen to where it sounds hollow and where it sounds solid. And once they kind of are able to ascertain what level the feed is at using that sounding methodology, they sort of estimate how much product is in the bin and then place their order with the feed mill after doing that. So given that this is sort of the primary methodology that's in use around the world today, you can probably guess or begin to understand why, at the very start of that feed ordering process, there's all kinds of uncertainty and a lot of manual human labor involved in just gathering that information and kicking off that process of generating an order at the feed mill and then, generating an accurate order at that. So this kind of sits squarely in that channel. We have recognized, or with the help of our partners across the industry, we've identified that this is an area that is severely lacking automation, where all kinds of other areas in the feed industry have long ago been automated. This area in particular, still requires a lot of human interaction, and that causes our customers to be reactive instead of proactive. So, we built a sensor solution paired with a really incredible software which harvests that information from the farm and then puts it in front of our users at the mill, helping them to understand how to better automate those processes. And ultimately the benefit to those companies then is increased efficiency, significant cost savings, reduction in total miles traveled for their transportation departments, increased sustainability. The benefits are honestly just almost unimaginable once you can start to automate that part of the process.
So as we talk about new technology, you guys recently launched a new 3D sensor to monitor feed inventory. What makes this new sensor so accurate and reliable? How can it help feed mills and producers? And can you explain the technology a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. So recognizing, as I said, as we work with some of our earliest partners in the industry, that there was a significant gap there, an information deficit. We started to realize that the right solution to solve this problem would revolve around being able to automate that process of placing the order and then, making sure that the order is for the right quantity and the right product type, and then ultimately, enabling the rest of the mill downstream to operate more efficiently, to procure their raw materials for that feed well in advance of actually needing it, to plan their production routes more efficiently. And in order to do that, what you needed at the very start of that automation stream was really solid information. And this actually, as I mentioned already, was one of the biggest challenges is when the information source at the start of that process is actually, a human throwing a golf ball or pounding a feed bin with a mallet. It's really hard to get accurate information at the start of that process. And then as a result, if the information going into the beginning of that process is inaccurate, you almost, you put yourself in a dangerous position if you're trying to automate your systems after that point when the information going into that workflow isn't trustworthy. So what we recognized is that while the industry needed increased automation in this area, we weren't going to be able to do that unless we actually developed a solution to get that information accurately from the feed bins. So we started out by building a LiDAR-based technology, which is light-based, and it looks inside of the feed bin. It was essentially the first of its kind, and that served us really, really well. But as we grew and we expanded across North America, and in fact around the world, now we recognize that in some cases there are types of feed that are really, really hard to monitor. So high humidity mash feeds, for instance, will have feed flow issues that cause feed to get hung up on the bin sidewalls and then giant holes to form in the middle of the feed bin, which is kind of called rat holing across the industry. So when you get rat holing happening, it's really, really difficult to monitor exactly how much product is inside of those bins unless you have a sensor that's able to see the entire inside of the feed bin. So that is what we have developed, and we are about to release in the next month or two here is actually what we believe currently is the world's most accurate 3D sensor. And what it does basically is it moves us from a point of only being able to see a single point inside of the feed bin, of the feed surface. We now, with this new sensor, are able to see literally 9,000 plus points across the feed surface. So from basically, the very top of the bin all the way to the bottom of the bin, we're able to generate a really, really accurate 3D model of the product inside of the bin. And because we know the exact volume and dimensions of the bin, we can then calculate using that 3D model exactly how much product is inside of the bin. So again, going back to what I sort of started with, this is absolutely critical. If you're going to automate the rest of the process of tracking how much product is in each bin, automating ordering and making sure that you're, feeding the right quantities and the right order amounts into the rest of the automation process, you need to make sure that the sensor at the start is capable of delivering actionable data. And so that's exactly what we've built. Our LiDAR sensor is really working well in the field with a lot of customers today, but there's definitely a subset of the industry that requires an even more accurate sensor. And that's exactly what our 3D sensor does for our customers.
So what else about this technology and your company specifically makes you proud?
Oh man, well we've come a long way in the last year and a half, 2 years. The company really only is 4 years old now, and so last year, or actually a year and a half ago, we won the Forbes Under 30 Innovation Icon Award. Last year we raised a significant amount of investment capital, which again was a really strong validation of our solution. And now we're partnering with Gartner too, so that, obviously is amazing to be able to have a company like that that's so, well ingrained in agriculture and literally every aspect of agriculture, and that operates around the world, recognizing that this is the definitive leader for this particular space when it comes to delivering automation to that workflow. But I think honestly, the thing that probably makes me most proud about where we are today is the level of passion of not only our employees, but also the customers that we're working with, our earliest customers and the customers right up to, the most recent ones that we've brought on board. Our approach to innovation is such that it really encourages strong partnerships. And as a result, we've been able to work very closely with our customers to perfect the solution and, to further develop it to ensure that ultimately it's doing exactly what they need it to do. And I think anytime you're building a new technology or a new product, that kind of collaboration is absolutely essential. If you're going to build something that truly solves the problem, you need to be working closely with the people that are ultimately going to be using it. The fact that our customers have been so willing to help us out in that regard, that really gives me a tremendous amount of confidence that we're working in the right direction and that we're doing it with really strong partners.
What are your thoughts on the feed supply industry 20 plus years from now? What's your prediction for the future?
That's a good question. So I think the biggest thing that we are likely to see, and in fact you can't even see it across the market already today, is that there's going to be a really big push for increased sustainability. This is kind of like one of those hot topics right now, just about everywhere that you look, where the population on Earth is growing rapidly, and providing the proteins that we need to be able to sustain that larger population is going to be harder and harder. But even more importantly, with concerns around climate change and all of these other things, the ability to do that, to provide those proteins that are necessary to support increased populations, is going to need to be done in a way that is increasingly sustainable. I think that the industry gets a bad rap sometimes for sustainability, and I don't think it's necessarily warranted. But I certainly do think that there's opportunities across the supply chain to be able to increase sustainability. And that's exactly what BinSentry helps a lot of our customers to do. So one of the primary areas that, say, a feed mill or a vertical integrator is able to leverage BinSentry's solution is to be able to develop more efficient transportation routes when they're delivering feed. By our estimations, our customers today are able to sort of increase their transportation efficiency by anywhere from 10 to 15%. And that's really significant when what you have on the roads every single day are massive feed trucks that are consuming a lot of gas and by extension kind of emitting a lot of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. If you can increase your transportation efficiency just with this data by like 10 to 15%, that's significant. And we've actually got some projects ongoing at BinSentry or about to be started that are going to help our customers to see even greater efficiency in that regard. I think, to be honest, greater sustainability is probably one of the biggest things that you'll see across the industry as we look into the future. And again, I think a lot of that is going to be unlocked by increased automation. There's just so much data available these days, a lot of solutions that are delivering data. And the next frontier now, I think, is being able to take all of that data and actually turn it into actionable insights. And I think the way that we're going to do that, because there's so much volumes of data being fed to producers and feed and livestock these days, is to leverage artificial intelligence and machine learning. So I think those are going to be things that we're going to see a lot more of, is artificial intelligence helping humans to interpret the volumes of data we're gathering in the interest of building greater automation and increased sustainability in the industry.
So let's backtrack a little bit and focus on you for a second. What's your story? I know you're a Canadian company with a Forbes Under 30 award under your belt. How did you get into the industry and what started this?
Yeah, well, I've got lots of family members who are farmers. But I myself, although I grew up in the country, I didn't grow up on a farm. And so I kind of took a little bit of a route into agriculture. I would probably, more appropriately refer to myself as a bit of a tech nerd. So I was, prior to starting BinSentry, working in automation, developing solutions to automate processes in other areas, when I actually heard about this problem from a local feed mill owner. So he basically described to me, exactly what I sort of talked about at the beginning of our call here, which is a really, difficult process that's riddled with inaccurate data, primarily because it's really hard to estimate how much product is inside of a feed bin. And basically the problem, as he described it, is when you can't get good information at the start of that process, then acting efficiently anywhere after that in the process becomes really difficult. So, being in automation already and being like a passionate tech guy, I sort of recognized an opportunity there for a sensor that, as I said, fell into that category of technology called IoT. And at that point, 5 years ago, it was still a relatively new concept of using sensors to perform tasks that are time-consuming or difficult for humans to do. And over the course of the last decade, I would say it's really, really grown because of the availability of wireless networks, lower cost sensors, more power efficient electronics. All of these things have enabled us to really start pursuing this type of a solution. And so, as I said, hearing about this particular challenge from this feed mill owner who said every mill around the world has this problem. It piqued my curiosity. And so I started developing the solution quite literally at my kitchen table. I was ordering all different kinds of sensors and all different kinds of development boards to try and figure out what the right combination of technologies actually was to solve this problem. And, one thing led to another, and before you know it, I had some prototypes built and a couple of feed mills asking for them. And I guess that, as they say, the rest is kind of history. We now are working with many of the market-leading mills and vertical integrators around North America, and of course, we have our sights set on the world next. So it's been a really exciting journey.
Yeah, it's been really exciting. I know you're just up the highway in Kitchener. Where did you grow up?
Mm-hmm. So I grew up in a little town just west of Kitchener called Camber. Certainly the heart of farming country here in southwestern Ontario. It was a great place to grow up.
So what or who in the ag industry inspire you?
Oh, well, there's lots of people that are certainly inspirational in the industry, but I have to say, I think honestly, it's the people, the boots on the ground, those people that have been there time and time again to kind of advise us on how best to solve this problem, because they're literally on the front lines. The people taking orders, the people at the mills that are trying to figure out how to send feed to hundreds of different farms every single day. Those people, honestly, are the ones that keep us going here, and their willingness to, as I said, work with us closely and equip us and teach us, right? Because BinSentry is a company full of people that largely come from tech backgrounds. But I got to say, it's been absolutely amazing working in this industry just to see how available those people are, those boots on the ground are to help us build this technology and help us to learn. It's been awesome. I would say that if I had to pick anyone, I would say those people are probably the ones that inspire us most to continue on. We get to see such a rewarding outcome when we can develop a solution that helps them solve some of those pain points that they encounter on a daily basis. And we wouldn't be able to do it without their help.
Well, we really appreciate you joining us today, Randall, and sharing your inspiring story and journey.
Yeah, well, thank you for the opportunity, Jim. It's really been an honor.
And visit BinSentry.com for more information.